All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Talk Tone hosted by yours truly, the one and only Goods. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? Today we have an interesting topic, and I have some wonderful guests with me today who specializes in this event, and it pleases me to have them here with me. First, I want to introduce our first guest, Chris Wiggins, who is the Pulitzer-nominated host of the Weekly Shift podcast, current chair of the Democratic Freedom Caucus, and the 2016 primary winner for the U.S. Representatives in California's 37th district. We also have Michael W. Ray, the host of the Well Moderated podcast. We have Darius Gilliam, a political science major and currently a student at Memphis University. And we also have Miss Judith Barrera, public school teacher, mentor, and serves as the member of the Walters Art Gallery Teachers Advisory Council, and received her bachelor's in history and secondary degree education from Coppin University. She also has her master's degree in international education and human development from George Washington University. So this means that we have a lot of people here, a diverse group. Everybody specializes in what they're talking about. And if not, to get the facts from anywhere else, why not get it from them? Today we'll be talking about the impeachment of Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump becomes the first president in American history to not only get impeached, he got impeached twice, and he is still on the ball road. Let's get started when he first stated, if I lose this election, that means this election is rigged. That's when the heat and hell raised and all the fraud conspiracy began. Now, the first time he got impeached was back on December 18th of 2019. That's when the House passed 2 articles to impeach him, but it wasn't even close to getting through the Senate. Nancy Pelosi waited roughly 28 days to send those articles over to the House. And now here we are again. It's January 14th. She announced this impeachment on January 10th. The House just recently voted Donald Trump out, but when will the articles get sent over to the Senate is the real question. The reason why Donald J. Trump is being impeached this time is for inciting violence. I want to get you guys' opinions on this. We're going to lay out the facts, and we're going to get the ball rolling. Let's get started with our first guest, Chris Wiggins. What do you think about this topic?
Man, certainly. Thanks for having me, Tamika, and thanks everybody else for being here. I'm excited to get to the point here. Look, it's a monumental occasion. This is the first time in history that and not even only a president, but an elected official has been impeached twice. That's pretty damning. When I look at this, the timing, you could say that it's problematic or what have you. I mean, and everything regarding the situation is problematic, particularly the fact that we had the Capitol stormed and we had white supremacists running a reign on the country, and I'll say this. The thing I look at, it is important that, look, we get this to the Senate. Mitch McConnell, if he wants to finally, for the first time in his pathetic career, want to say that, hey, you know what, I've put country before party, he will make sure that this comes to a vote. I don't care if that's January 19th. I don't care if the final vote goes in 5 minutes before Joe Biden to be made that, hey, you know what? Donald Trump cannot run for elected office ever again. Let's get him removed from office. Get everything to the Senate. Let them hold that to a vote, and let like some people like this, Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, let them be on the wrong side of history, so it affects their chances to ever run again. Also,
You want to jump over to Ms. Barrera? What do you think about this?
A really historic moment. As a teacher, I've taught I teach American history right now. I've taught American government. And so this is a real historic and teachable moment, not just for students, but all citizens alike. I think for me, when I break this down, I'm looking at what's the impact on Black and Brown communities, and how's this impact and the impeachment. How is this going to impact us, our communities? What does this say about white supremacy? For example, we know, and we have, Black and Brown people in Black and Brown communities have known for a long time that we are treated differently, disproportionately in the justice system. When we see the raid on the Capitol, the insurrection happening, we know that when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, the military was out there standing tall while the Black Lives Matter protest walked down Pennsylvania Avenue. Black Lives Matter Avenue at that. So we know we can see the stark differences, and we want to know basically for us as the Black and Brown community, what is this impeachment going to say for us? We know that the news outlets are talking about optics. Well, what are the optics? The optics shows and demonstrates that white supremacy is alive and well in all of our institutions, including the educational system. And then what's Joe Biden going to do about this? When is the whole topic of race and white supremacy a legitimate, a genuine, authentic discussion about racism in this country? We know Black and Brown people have been talking about racism in this country. We have racial battle fatigue at this point. We need to now give it back to the white community. Where is their talk about racism amongst themselves? And how this has led from 400 years now in this country, how this institution of racism exists within the foundations of our government, and how this is now coming to a head, and what is going to be done.
Mr. Michael Ray, what do you got to say about this topic?
My brother, I had to restart, so I need you to repeat the topic.
The topic of this is the impeachment of Donald J. Trump, how he becomes the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice. Do you think that this will actually go through?
I think in many ways, in many unofficial ways, it already has. For most of us, the people in this forum today, who weren't necessarily, and I'm not trying to date anybody's age, but who weren't necessarily front and center, the epic movement of their lifetime was the civil rights movement. For those of us today, this event here is the most polarizing issue that we've seen in our lifetime. I cannot recall to this date a moment where so many people were fundamentally and blatantly divided right down the middle. In some eyes, he's already been impeached, regardless to how the Senate votes or if the Senate votes. For many of us, we have already known of the broad disparity between people of color and non-people of color. We've watched over the last 8 to 12 years, systematically, whatever little fragile threads we had, or whatever fragile ties we had that binded, we've watched them separate. We've watched the tide roll in a certain direction. So I think that whether he's fundamentally in the traditional manner where the Senate sits down and draws their votes, in many ways, he's already been impeached. Do I think it will occur? I think strategically speaking, it's good play for the Republicans to make a last-ditch effort to save some face amidst all of this and leave it for the incoming Senate to vote. Do I think he will be? At the end of the day, my answer is still going to be no. From the physical aspect, but theoretically speaking and emotionally speaking, he already has.
Darius Gilliam?
In my opinion, I think it's unnecessary for them to try to impeach him again, especially because of his days coming down to an end. For the Senate to actually vote to remove him, he would need a 2/3 majority vote to get rid of him. And I just don't think that's possible, considering you would need every Democrat and 17 Republicans to vote to remove him. It just wouldn't be the right play. I think the Senate and the Congress altogether would work better if they placed their time and energy on more important things, like making sure Joe Biden's first 100 days goes according to plan, making sure we can get relief packages to people across the country who are affected by the coronavirus, making sure any other type of problems that people were having gets addressed first before trying to put all of our like members in one basket and hold them just to get rid of the president. I think the actual removal won't happen until after he's gone. So it wouldn't really benefit anyone in the long end. If we're really trying to make sure he doesn't run again in the future, I would say wait for him to not be president anymore and then prosecute him if there's really they really don't want him to run. But even in that case, they would have to be able to hold him to that for the next 4 years to make sure he doesn't run. I don't think our resources should be spent trying to make sure he's out of office if he's already going to be out of office.
And that's perfect that everybody brought these topics up. And as much as everybody want to wait, it has been urged that they get this impeachment done after the first 100 days of the Biden administration so that it doesn't mess up Biden's first 100 days of him running. But Nancy Pelosi isn't willing to wait that long. She wants to get him gone now. John Keiko, the first Republican in this impeachment to turn against Donald J. Trump. Actually, Mitt Romney turned against him last impeachment. I think Mitch McConnell comes down to a key player in this impeachment. If he is able to turn and willing to vote to get Trump out before January 20th, I believe all Republicans will then turn the stage and follow in suit. Some key players to watch out for: Senator Collins. He's been showing some urge here and there. Senator Sass, Ernest, Grassley, Burr. All of these senators are starting to show that they are no longer backing Donald J. Trump. Liz Cheney, she came out and said that Donald Trump is at fault. All of these people are pointing the finger at Donald J. Trump, but will they be willing to, when the time comes down, to put in that vote? Is it urgent that we get him out now? He's going to be the president. He already stated that he's not going to Joe Biden's inauguration. This is an issue that we have to get a hold of now. And with people talking about this issue, it's important that we bring out the facts. One important thing that I think we should note here, and we're all going to get a chance to talk about it, is this is the first attack on the Capitol since 1812. Just recently, they're sending over roughly 10,000 to 15,000 troops to protect the Capitol during this inauguration weekend. That's more troops than in Afghanistan and Iraq alone. We're pulling resources to go to the Capitol itself. So that shows how urgent it is. This is going to be the first time that troops also stay overnight in the Capitol since 1860 when the Civil War took place. So what is really going on? What do you guys have to say about that?
Well, I'd say that part of it is, you see that they have the metal detectors now in the Capitol, and that they're securing the the House or the Senate Rayburn building as well. Look, this is all precautionary thing. To have something like this happen so close to an election, those who don't study history are doomed to repeat itself. Right, even if that is the much newer history. And so with an inauguration happening, and one where it's going to be seriously scaled back. I don't know if anyone here has been to inauguration before, but there are millions of people, or in Trump's cases, just billions of people came. But there are quite a few people are there, but it's going to be more scaled back, and that includes scale back in security. If you're thinking sort of from the lens of one of these agitators and these white supremacist insurrectionists, the inauguration would be a good time to try to usurp the government again. And I think the National Guard there, I think that a lot of this is precautionary to make sure that, hey, there could be scaled back and less resources than a typical inauguration, and they want to make sure that this kind of insurrection doesn't occur on the national stage one more time and embarrass someone. Like think about that. What would that mean for America? Two times in a 3-week period that a siege happened on the Capitol, and this time with the inauguration, an attempt to overthrow the incoming administration. So I think that is something that is pressing. And then also there has been a failure, and through no fault of the Capitol Police necessarily, but there's been a failure in terms of the law and order process there within DC. Like, think about it. Chris Rock had a famous joke they had over in 3 weeks, right? We had essentially a ragtag group of people dressed as Vikings go over and take over the United States Capitol, just walk right in. So some of this is I'd imagine that there is an attempt to figure out, hey, how do we scale up resources to make sure that this is a secure building? I guarantee if you go to Kremlin, you ain't getting into, what do you call it? You ain't getting to Putin's office just like within 10 days, right? With limited resources while you're on 4chan with the rest of the incels, you know? So I think that this is legit. This is part of it. Let's ensure that we're not this not happen again, and let's sort of strategically look at, hey, what should be what should we be doing, right, from a security standpoint going forward to protect this area and to protect the elected officials.
Barrera?
Yeah, I concur with Chris. For me, I'm looking at it as a failure in national security, failure within the FBI ranks. I saw a quote the other day, was put out by Public Citizen. It said, if you're spending $740 billion annually on defense, but fascists dressed for the Renaissance Fair can storm the Capitol as they please, then maybe it's time that we rethink our national security. Bottom line, they've known about these white supremacist organizations. They've known about them. They're on lists. We know their leadership, and simply nothing was done. And so I agree with Chris that I don't think it was the Capitol Police fault, but I don't think they were also necessarily were given intelligence about these white supremacist groups. So in order for them to be adequately prepared. So I think that there is definitely, this has exposed a definite weakness in our national security, a weakness in the collaboration between the Capitol Police, the Washington, D.C. police, and the FBI. And then again, I also have to keep coming back to it. We see the difference between how white supremacist groups are handled versus BLM and international organizations. So, yeah.
Mr. Ray?
Oh, goodness. I agree, first and foremost, with, my other two constituents who've already spoken. But I think it's worth noting that here's why I don't place a whole lot of blame on the Capitol Police. Now, I'll sum it up for you like this. You're going to have a barbecue, right? You invite people to your barbecue. Now, you know that there's a group of people in your neighborhood that you just don't agree with. So should they uninvitedly, unexpectedly, and unappreciatively arrive at your barbecue, everything to your means is available to keep them from crossing the threshold from the sidewalk to your backyard. So think of that as Black Lives Matter. Think of that as Antifa, since everyone loves to throw Antifa around, right? Think of that as any other social injustice organization related to anyone of non-white ethnicity. Now, here's where this gets a little seedy. You have family members, right? Ty, I know you have brothers and sisters. Yeah. Your brothers and sisters are coming, and they told you 3 weeks ago that they don't like your girlfriend. So therefore, when they come to your barbecue, they're coming to bring the pain. They're coming to rebel rouse. They're causing to raise a ruckus. They're coming to do whatever they need to do, climbing through your bedroom window and Viking out, whatever they plan to do. They plan on an insurrection at Ty's barbecue. Your ability to police them is not as of the same veracity because they're family members, right? So you may let them cross the threshold. Why do I size it up that way? The FBI stated some years ago that there was an alarming amount of white supremacists that had infiltrated law enforcement. So if white supremacy had infiltrated law enforcement, Why am I expecting law enforcement, who's now embedded with white supremacy, to be aggressive towards and rebuke white supremacy? Why would I expect you to stand out on your porch, pistol in hand, and point at your relatives if they're about to cross the threshold to disrupt your barbecue? Right? Simple as that. And that's how I feel about. I don't necessarily hold it to the Capitol Police, because I can't expect insurrectionists to police insurrectionists. That is crazy. So that's where I stand on that. I feel the same way all the way down the line. This is the first time where a segment of white America feels disenfranchised the way every other person of color in America has felt since the beginning of America.
Yes. And Darius Gilliam, you got anything to say?
I was going to make an argument talking about how I place all the blame on the Capitol Police, because I would expect that they would have more police there, knowing that the president was going to have a big rally, knowing there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people there. But the way Mr. Ray just put it, I understand his thought process behind it, and how you can't police insurrectionists if you're the insurrectionist. So I would just have to agree to him with that point, because he did.
Okay, good. And now the question comes to it goes back to the impeachment. Is this really on Donald J. Trump? He made a quote: "If you don't fight like hell, you won't have a country anymore." But he also made a statement that he wanted the march to be peaceful on the way to the Capitol. Now, it's facts showing that Donald Trump, he said some stuff, but his constituents said more. FBI had knowing about this march to the Capitol, this breaching of the Capitol, the day before the breach actually took place. It's paperwork to show that. Now, is it really on Donald Trump? Are we really going to try to impeach this man right now? Do the Democrats have the strength to take on this impeachment this time, or will they just let it flop like the first time? It's a video going around of Chuck Schumer at a political stand-in, and he's getting shut down. Do the Democrats have the strength to put on for this impeachment and actually go forth through it this time, or will they just let it go down? Is it Trump, or is it his constituents that gotta really go?
Well, certainly Trump has to go. Look, do his constituents have to go? I don't without knowing what that means or so, right? You would hope that the ideology, and sort of the contempt, for people of color, and the contempt for sort of progressive ideas, you would hope that sort of the visual reaction that would cause you to want to do an insurrection, you'd hope that those ideas would go, as opposed to the physical person. Make no mistake about this, though. This is Donald Trump. Now, this has been like what's happening, right? The rage, all that pent up, that's been in America for forever. They put fire hoses on our brothers and sisters. They bombed little girls down in Birmingham, right? That's been there forever. It went dormant. We're not going to pretend that racism and vitriol towards people of color did not exist, and particularly towards Black people. We're the most persecuted people on this planet, Black people, all across. You go to Asia, you go to Australia, you go to Europe, same thing. Here, this being a newer country, it's the remnants or so are a lot closer. We're not that far removed, from Sunday Bloody Sunday. So that's what that's why it's it's a little bit more fresh. And then Donald Trump has brought back those ideas that people have not left. I don't care what Republicans or conservatives I don't want to take away any of your listeners at all, right? But any conservatives or Republicans need to face the idea that, hey, these are things that have been stirring in large pockets of the conservative movement. Whether an individual conservative harbors no racial animus or anything, these have been deep-seated and, for the most part, dormant over the last few years. Donald Trump has empowered. If you look at the primary debates, I think it was in Nevada or New Hampshire, the Democratic primary debates, where people had talked about sort of some of those Bernie bros and those people from like Chapo Trap House, where they're attacking people for race and gender and everything. And the question was, hey, what kind of things are you inspiring in your voters, right? And not to in any capacity compare that to what we saw here just a few weeks ago, but it's what is Donald Trump inspiring in his voters? He's inspiring them and empowering them in every manner to provoke people, to invoke this. You see them with like their "Don't Tread on Me" flags and everything like that, which doesn't even make sense. But you see that, and you see sort of the levels of individuals pushing back on Black Lives Matter. And I think Ms. Barrera had said this earlier, Professor Barrera had said this earlier, you've got, I forgot what I was going to brought up that she said, right? But nevertheless, right, you've got people, you've got individuals that have been here with the sort of ideologies of attack, right? And they'll blame everything on Antifa. Somehow the party of personal responsibility just decides, this is Antifa that did all this stuff. No, it was you guys with Camp Auschwitz shirts. All of those people coming to attack the Capitol. That is Donald Trump. That is Ted Cruz. That is Josh Hawley. Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley both felt that they had the ability to do that, right? Kelly Loeffler, all of those, due to Donald Trump. He is the catalyst for this movement. We remove him from office. That movement needs to be quelled. It needs to be shut down. It is now I call it an epidemic within this country. What he has inspired.
Yeah, Mr. Ray.
Yeah, I think we have to go back to the ideology. It's like a cauldron, right? And inside this cauldron, we have declining economics. This nativist ideology has been around forever. I mean, we can look at this nativist ideology that inspired the Chinese Exclusion Act. Also during other European immigration, in the mid 1800s, and we could see that come around again in the early 1900s. We can see the changing demographics in this country is also in this cauldron. We can see now more people of color. Those statistics, those demographic numbers are growing. And obviously in this cauldron, we have political belief systems, socialism versus capitalism. That's in this cauldron. So we have this cauldron filled with all of these political, social, and economic changes. You can also add environmental changes now as well, and the impact of the environment. So, and how the impact of the environment plays on the daily life of Americans. And then you have the spark. The spark is Donald Trump. Okay, so that spark has now ignited the fire. So I think, yeah, Donald Trump is the spark, but we have to go back to the ideologies of the people in this country. And again, a lot of these ideologies are rooted in white supremacy. We keep hearing that term. We know that these ideologies are rooted in a capitalistic mindset and capitalistic theory. So I think we need to take a good look at these ideologies and how they are now influencing people. Not only that, but one thing I forgot in the cauldron is social media and the power and influence of social media. That's one thing, element that I forgot in this cauldron. Now people are given a voice, and I think everybody should be given a voice, right? That's part of a true democratic system. But what's going on here now is that we have all of this false rhetoric, all of this false information that is being given a platform through all kinds of different forms of social media. We also have our media per se is no longer unbiased. That's also another big problem with the spread of misinformation. So for me, I really think that these ideologies, I wouldn't even call them, I don't even know if they're conservative ideologies anymore. We're teetering towards fascist ideology at this point. So to me, yeah, Donald Trump is that spark, but for me, it's really the ideologies in America that are coming about or coming out because of Donald Trump. But I think we really need to address the American citizens and the polarizing ideologies that exist in this country. One thing I also want to mention, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, when we always have to talk about the two-party political system in this country and how they have dominated this country for so long. This is another problem. Like, we need to reevaluate the two-party political system. This is, I always say, like, yeah, they are different, but they are alike. And I also think for Black and brown people in this country to just blindly follow the Democratic Party, we really need, as people of color, to please learn your history. To blindly follow the Democrats is a mistake. It's really a mistake. We really need to focus on economic, political, and social empower our communities. And we need to empower communities to be ready to tackle this ideology that almost 70 million people have in this country. So,
Mr. Ray.
As much as I want to say this is all on the 45th elected president, the 45th elected president, and I'm not tempering how I say this, but I'm just want to make sure I put this in the correct light. The 45th elected president, does he have to go? Absolutely. Whether it's in 8 days, 6 days, 3 days, 45 minutes, absolutely. He's already overstayed of 3 years and however many days short of 300, short of 4 years, too long. But what we're seeing is very much a political and social Charles Manson experience. Manson was sent to prison for life, not off of who he directly killed with his own bare hands, but the manner in which he motivated and mechanized individuals to kill on his behalf, right? That's what he's convicted of. Now, what he's done, that's a whole nother story. Wasn't there, can't say, can only speculate. But we're going by what put him in prison, right? I guess in some term, with the 45th elected president. That's why it's not just him that needs to go. It's several of his Republican constituents that need to go, because he empowered them. And them, when you start talking about the Hawleys and the Cruzes, do they really care about his message, or do they care of the support his message has garnered? So they don't really care about the messenger. They care less about the cook. It's all about the meal, right? So what do you figure? 70, 74 million people voted for him. That's 74 million people that if I decide to run the president, I'm going to need to vote for me. So therefore, I have to be seen as a continuance. So therefore, I must go out here and decree that this was a crooked election, even though no one nowhere, Republican judges have appointed judges have had to shoot it down on the fact that y'all have no proof, right? So I say that to say Trump is the master room player. He's whatever the room requires. The problem is you have individuals who cannot / will not / won't see it from that perspective. So you have him who didn't tell anybody directly to put on a Viking suit and take the Capitol building, but can insinuate as such. Now you got folks who are being arrested. You got 4 folks who are dead, Manson, right? So you have folks that have suffered. I use that word loosely. If you don't stick your hand in fire, you ain't gonna get burned. So if you willingly stick your hand in fire and get burned, I don't know how much of a tragedy that is that you got burned. But you have these individuals who have chosen to hitch that's the term I want to use, to hitch their wagon to Trump. And I don't see it fair that we're going to kill the horse. However, we're going to allow that wagon that has sown discord and carried in the back of that wagon everything that we've seen, empowered individuals who didn't need to be empowered for causes that are not worth empowering. White America is not disenfranchised. If they were, we wouldn't call it white America. So they all need to go. In short, they all need to go. Hawley, Cruz is a whole nother loser of a whole nother caliber. I mean, a man speaks that way of your family, and then all of a sudden you're gonna stand next to him. Nah, I can't do that either. I'm as liberated and educated as I like to think I am. I'm still from the hood. We don't do that. So, but that's where I stand. They all have to go. It's not just Trump. They all have to go.
Yes. And Darius Gilliam.
I think as a whole, the GOP is dying. It's being split down the middle between Trump supporters and actual Republicans. I think I've seen a lot of people who say they support Trump, and like even when he's not president anymore, they'll still support him. They'll support his family. Like I think they want a monarchy. They want him to be king. And there's Republicans who are like, okay, he lost. Get over it. Joe Biden's the next president, and they're just fine the way they are. I think that split is causing like a big diversion in the middle, and I think we should fix that, because there's no reason why people want a king when we fought so hard not to have that. Donald Trump, he's not a king. He's a person. When he's gone, he's gone, and supporters should get to know that, because it's just wrong splitting the GOP like that in the middle.
Yes. And then this is a conversation that can go on for days and days. It's the thing about politics that I like. From Mr. Wiggins to Ms. Barrera to Mr. Ray to Mr. Gilliam, we had many opinions laid on the table today. We had facts thrown on the table today, and I appreciate them for coming out today and sharing their opinions, because if they were not here today, we wouldn't have got to hear the story. I thank everybody for coming out today, but this leads me into the closing, that if we do not speak up now, who will? It says that in order to build new things, we have to destroy first. America has destroyed for a long time coming now. What does one do when there's nothing one can do? As a community, we must stand up together. We must speak on topics like this. We must raise awareness to the issue, for if we don't, nobody else will. We have to be educated as a community, or nobody else will educate us. And this is what we just had today, an educational conversation for those who could not educate themselves. This is Talk to Him, hosted by yours truly, the one and only Goods. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? We thank our guests. We love our guests. We hope they continue to be empowering, strengthening the mind, the body, and the soul, while strengthening their community as well. Hope to see you all soon.
Thanks, TG. Appreciate you. Thanks,
Appreciate you, young man.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Darius. Thank you.